Discover how the Lexus LS 400 transformed the U.S. automotive market in an incredible 6 years. Jack Thompson leaned against the rusted fender of an old Chevy, wiping the sweat from his brow. The sun hung high, casting the small suburban neighborhood of Maplewood in a golden glow. All around him, shiny new cars glided past, their polished exteriors gleaming like jewels, while he struggled to make ends meet at his modest garage. At 35, Jack was known for his honest work and dedication to fixing cars, but the whispers of success and the allure of the Lexus LS 400 felt like distant dreams, just out of reach. When Lexus unveiled the LS 400, it captured Jack's imagination. Its striking design and luxurious features offered more than just transportation. They symbolized respect, dignity, and a future where hard work was rewarded. Yet, as he admired it from afar, the weight of economic disparity pressed on him, driving a wedge between his dreams and the reality he faced at home. Sarah, ambitious and full of ideas, wanted more for their family. "Jack, you have the skills. Why not move up? You could run your own shop." But Jack felt torn. Chasing bigger opportunities meant risking the stability he had built for Sarah and their 2 kids. He could feel the pressure mounting, especially as his elderly father, a respected war veteran, warned against dreaming too big. "Loyalty to family comes first, Jack. Don't chase after fleeting desires," his father would say, leaving Jack trapped in a storm of doubt. Each night, Jack lay awake, questioning if pursuing the LS 400 was betraying his family or fulfilling his dreams. The car became a metaphor, taunting him with images of success and respect. The community's skepticism echoed in his mind, amplifying the internal battles over what really mattered. He'd fix everyone's cars with kindness and dedication, but why did it feel like he was still invisible? At the annual Maplewood Car Show, everything came to a head. As he wandered through the crowd, admiring the sprawl of vehicles, envy and shame bubbled within him. Then came an insensitive comment from a neighbor. "Look at Jack, still fixin' junk while we drive in luxury." Cut deep. Jack clenched his fists, heart pounding. The cheers of the crowd faded, replaced by the rush of blood in his ears. "You think I don't work hard? You think I don't care?" he shouted, a tempest of emotions spilling forth. The realization struck him. Respect wasn't found in vehicles or possessions, it lay in the connections he fostered through sweat and grit. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as Jack's heart felt heavy with despair, something surprising happened. The community, with their skeptical eyes and whispered judgments, came together. They rallied at his garage after hearing about a setback, transforming the space with laughter and support. It lit a spark in Jack, igniting a hope he thought was lost to the weight of material aspirations. Yet, as joy enveloped him, Jack found himself at a crossroads. Could he break free from societal expectations? Or did the real American dream hide in the bonds he cultivated within his family and community? The air buzzed with potential as he stood contemplating, knowing one path could lead to a hollow success, while the other embraced the warmth of family love. With uncertainty swirling in his mind, the question loomed. How would he choose? The community's encouragement shouldn't have surprised Jack. But it did. He watched as neighbors transformed his garage into a hub of goodwill. Bob from across the street brought over fresh lemonade, while Marcy, a smiling face he'd seen at the local grocery store, offered to help clean his tools. Laughter filled the small space, mixing with the familiar sounds of hammers and wrenches. It felt alive again, more than just a garage. It was a source of pride and togetherness. Jack stood by, observing every moment. His heart was swelling with gratitude, buzzing with a sense of belonging he hadn't felt in a long time. Conversations flowed, stories were shared, and ideas formed like the parts of a magnificent machine coming together. For the first time, he thought about his dreams, not in isolation, but as part of something bigger. Jack, Sarah's voice broke through his thoughts, snapping him back into focus. Maybe we should think about getting that loan for a bigger space? Her eyes sparkled with ambition, hope pouring off of her. She always believed in him in ways that challenged him to believe in himself. Sarah, we can't stretch ourselves too thin. What if it doesn't work out? His voice was barely a whisper, heavy with the weight of doubts. Or what if it does? Imagine what your shop could become. You have the skills and the heart, she urged, gripping his arm gently. People love you here. They believe in you, and I do too. As Jack looked around, he saw smiles and nods of encouragement. All the faces echoed Sarah's sentiment. But then doubt crept back in. Was it truly about the shop, or was it about the fear of leaving a life of certainty for one filled with unknowns? Just as he was about to respond, a crack of laughter came from the rear of the garage. It was Tyler, a young kid who'd grown up idolizing Jack. Hey, Mr. Thompson, if you build that new shop, can I come work for you? The question snapped Jack from his introspection. Of course, Tyler. In fact, I could use an extra pair of hands, Jack replied, the hint of a smile breaking through his worry. The kid's enthusiasm resonated within him. Maybe this dream wasn't just his. It could inspire the future generation too. As the evening wore on, Jack struggled with a tumult of emotions. The dreams of grandeur and luxury fought against the comforts of his current life. The respect he sought so desperately now felt complicated. Did it reside in the number of cars he could fix or a shiny building with his name above the door? In the quiet moments, as darkness settled around Maplewood and the laughter faded, Jack stood outside, staring at his garage. It seemed small and unassuming under the vast expanse of stars, but it was home, a sanctuary, a place where dreams were not foolish fantasies but tangible realities built on sincerity and hard work. The path before him shimmered with possibility but also uncertainty. With Sarah at his side, he knew they had a choice to make. Should they dive into the unknown or appreciate the gems of life they already held? The whisper of the evening breeze down the street seemed to answer with a question of its own, wrapping around him like a familiar embrace. What would happen if he took the leap? Would he soar, or would he fall? In that moment of reflection, Jack realized he didn't just want to fix cars anymore, he wanted to fix his own life. As he turned back inside, a flicker of excitement ignited within him. Tomorrow held answers he hadn't dared to ask. Perhaps it was time to leave the shadows of doubt behind. And with every heartbeat, one thought grew stronger. Should he step into the unknown and chase not just cars, but dreams? The next morning burst forth with the golden sun illuminating Jack's garage like a spotlight on a stage. He felt the warmth seep into his bones, urging him to embrace the day ahead. The aroma of fresh coffee drifted through the air as Sarah entered, her usual morning enthusiasm buzzing around her. You awake yet, dreamer? She teased, handing him a steaming mug. Jack took a sip, its rich flavor matching the excitement blooming within him. He glanced over at the garage where so many ideas had been shared the night before. There was a soft hum of possibility lingering in the air, and Jack's pulse quickened at the thought of what the day could hold. Let us go talk to the bank, Sarah said, her expression alive with hope. This could be the start of something amazing, Jack. What if they say no? He asked, his voice a mere echo of the doubts that still lingered. Then we keep trying. We owe it to ourselves and to the people who believe in you, she said, gently nudging him with her shoulder. Jack nodded, feeling that familiar twinge of apprehension. It was one thing to dream, but it was another to step into reality. He couldn't let fear dictate his choices any longer. As they drove towards the bank, the weight of his doubts felt lighter, lifted by the encouraging voices of his community swirling in his mind upon arriving. The imposing building seemed less like a fortress and more like a gateway. Sarah squeezed his hand as they walked inside, reinforcing the bond that anchored him amid uncertainty. The encounter with the lender was a whirlwind. He found himself talking about his plans with a fervor he hadn't anticipated. Ideas poured out of him like oil from a well, and with each word, he felt like he was shedding his skin of doubt. The banker listened intently, even leaning in a bit as if Jack's passion was contagious. "Mr. Thompson," the banker said finally, "I see potential here. I believe we can work something out." Jack's breath caught. He could almost feel the sigh of relief roll through him. But even as he smiled, a sliver of unease nagged at the back of his mind. What if it all fell apart? A few hours later, as they left the bank with the beginnings of a loan agreement in hand, Sarah turned to him with bright eyes. "You did it. You really did it," she exclaimed. The thrill of the moment bubbled in Jack's chest, but the weight of commitment loomed on the horizon. "Now the real work begins," he said, trying to temper their enthusiasm. She grabbed his arm, laughter spilling over the words. "We're in this together. We'll figure it out or die trying." They called Tyler as they walked to the car. "Listen, buddy. Guess what? I'm going to need your help. We just got a loan to start building a new shop," Jack shouted, his voice ringing with the joyful news. Tyler's delighted whoop echoed through the phone. "You know I'll be there. This is going to be so cool." As Jack sat in the driver's seat, a mix of exhilaration and fear coursed through him. Yes, he was taking a leap, diving headfirst into an unknown future. But what if it was everything he had ever wanted? That night, Jack lay awake, the insistent buzz of excitement racing alongside doubts in his mind. They were building something bigger than himself, but what if he couldn't live up to the expectations? As he stared at the ceiling, the sound of his heart thumped like a drum, each beat asking the same question. Could he really do this? What would it take to turn this dream into reality? And with that question floating in the stillness of the night, a soft but undeniable conviction rose within him. Tomorrow was just the beginning. But what if the journey ahead was fraught with more than just challenges? What if the risk unleashed a version of himself he never knew existed? The dawn brought not just light, but clarity. With determination whispering through his heart, Jack knew one thing: he was ready to discover what awaited beyond the leap. Jack rose early. The sun was a splash of gold spilling through his window. He could feel its warmth urging him to rise and seize the day. Today was the first day of what he hoped would be the rest of his life. Flashes of excitement flickered like fireflies in his chest as he brewed coffee. The scent wrapped around him, a familiar comfort that fueled his anticipation as he sipped his coffee. A thought crept in: what if he actually turns that garage into a thriving community hub? He had envisioned that space as more than just a shop. It was to be a place where creativity sparked, a workshop for budding mechanics and artists alike. He could envision the clattering of tools, the laughter of friends sharing ideas, and the hum of innovation. Sarah arrived, her bright smile lighting up the room. "Ready for your first day as a business owner?" She had a knack for turning any situation into an adventure. Jack chuckled, feeling both a thrill and a chill run through him. "As ready as I'll ever be." Together, they stepped outside, optimism spilling out in waves. Sarah had put together a list of tasks for the day. They would start with the renovations, transforming the garage into something that felt welcoming, a place where dreams could come alive. They picked up supplies from the hardware store, their laughter filling the air each time Sarah flirted with the store manager for discounts. As they worked, the sweat on Jack's brow was a reminder of the labor ahead. They tore down old shelves and began painting the walls an eye-catching blue. It was vibrant, a color that echoed the energy they envisioned for the shop. Jack's heart raced with every brushstroke. Each stroke felt like a commitment, a promise to himself that he would not turn back. Hours passed like minutes, and as they stepped back to admire their work, Jack felt the first tinge of pride. It was still just a garage, but it was transforming inch by inch. Sarah's voice brought him back to the present. "You're doing this. Look at what you've already accomplished." But as praise washed over him, a flicker of doubt peeked in. What if it was just paint? What if they never got to the dreams floating in his head? It was hard to shake the creeping fear of failure. "Do you really think so?" he asked, his voice a tad too uncertain. "Absolutely. You have a vision, and that's where it all starts. Remember what you said about community. This is just the beginning." Her enthusiasm was contagious. If anyone could see it, it was Sarah. Nothing made her happier than chasing dreams with him. That evening, exhausted but exhilarated, Jack looked at the progress they made from the doorway. The garage felt different, alive, positioned on the cusp of something great. He could almost taste the possibilities. But then, a thought gnawed at him. Was all this enough? Success felt like it hung in the balance. As the night deepened, Jack lay in bed, grappling with restless thoughts. The sound of the world outside was a comforting lullaby, reminding him that life was still happening, and he desperately wanted to be a part of it. Just as sleep began to weave its spell, a loud knock on the door startled him awake. Who could it be at this hour? His heart raced not from fear, but from anticipation. Was it the call to action he had been waiting for? With a deep breath, Jack threw off the covers and rushed down the stairs. What awaited him on the other side of that door? Was it the opportunity or challenge that could change everything? Jack flung the door open, and there stood a tall figure cloaked in shadow. The porch light illuminated a familiar face. Dave, an old friend he hadn't seen in years. Dave had always been larger than life, with an easy grin and a knack for finding trouble. "Jack, long time no see," he exclaimed, stepping into the light. Jack's heart flickered with joy and confusion. "Dave, what are you doing here?" "Thought I'd pay an old buddy a visit," Dave said, his voice booming as he embraced Jack with a hearty slap on the back. "I heard you've got some big plans brewing." That was one way to put it. The excitement and uncertainty bubbled inside Jack. "Yeah, trying to open a community hub from the old garage." Dave's eyes sparkled. "That's brilliant. I always knew you had it in you. Mind if I crash here for a bit? I could lend a hand." The offer was unexpected, but Jack felt a spark of enthusiasm at the idea. "Sure. I could use all the help I can get." As they settled at the kitchen table with mugs of steaming coffee, Jack shared his vision, his voice gaining strength with every word. "I see this place filled with people, creating and learning. A real hub of activity, where families can come together." Dave nodded, the excitement in his expression fueling Jack's dream further. "That's what it's all about, man. You gotta embrace that vision. Are you all in?" Jack looked into the depths of his coffee mug, suddenly unsure of his own burning passion. "I want to be, but what if it falls flat?" "Hey," Dave leaned in. "You put in the work already. You painted the walls, tore down the shelves. You're halfway there. Just take it one step at a time." Just then, a thought struck Jack. "Why were you in town, anyway?" "Oh, I've been bouncing around from job to job. Just got back from a road trip across the country." Dave waved his hands excitedly. "You wouldn't believe the stories I've got. But mostly, I realized it's time for me to settle down a bit." Jack could sense a hint of vulnerability behind Dave's bravado. "You looking for something? Place to stay? Maybe. Just something different." Dave paused, collecting his thoughts. "I've been chasing after the next thrill, but I think what I really want is to be part of a community." Jack felt a connection forming. "Maybe this is what we both need. You can help me with the garage, and I can help you find that sense of belonging." As the evening stretched on, they dove into plans, visions spilling from Jack like a river of hope and energy. Dave's laughter echoed in the room, pulling Jack's spirits higher. But deep down, an unsettling thought lingered. What if Dave was running from something? Why now? The night wore on, and as they pieced together the layout for the garage, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that inviting Dave into his life could alter everything. He could feel the weight of his choice pressing on him, like a fork in the road. Just then, a loud crash outside interrupted their brainstorming session, followed by hushed voices. Jack's heart thudded in his chest. Was this a new challenge? Or perhaps a sign that things were about to shift once again? "Did you hear that?" he asked, exchanging a concerned glance with Dave. "Yeah," Dave replied, his voice low and serious. "Let us check it out." With the adrenaline surging, they raced to the door, both of them ready for whatever awaited them. What would the night reveal outside? As Jack swung open the door, the night air hit him like a wave. Cool and sharp, it cut through the warmth of the kitchen. Outside, the porch light painted shadows that danced across the ground. Jack's eyes darted to the street, searching for the source of the noise they had heard. What was that? Jack whispered, half to himself. Just then, the hushed voices became clearer. A group of teenagers, 3 or 4 of them, were huddled by a parked car, their faces a mix of mischief and nerves. It seemed they had knocked over a garbage can, its contents strewn across the pavement. "Oh man, they must be up to no good," Dave murmured, his tone amused but cautious. Instinctively, Jack took a step toward the edge of the porch. "Hey, you guys all right?" The teens startled, glancing up at the 2 men standing on the porch, silhouetted by the warm light. One of them, a lanky boy with a baseball cap, laughed nervously. "Yeah, just a little accident." "A little?" Jack replied, trying to keep his tone light despite the adrenaline racing through him. "Looks like a full-blown disaster." At that, the teenagers chuckled, the tension easing ever so slightly. Jack felt a flicker of familiarity, a sense that they, too, were just trying to figure out life. "Need a hand?" Dave called out, already moving down the steps. Jack hesitated for a moment. This wasn't what he expected for their first night reuniting. But seeing Dave jump in made him feel like he should too. They reached the group, and Jack crouched next to Dave. "Looks like you've got quite the mess here," he said, motioning to the scattered trash. "Yeah. Sorry about that," one of the girls said, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "We were just trying to prank our friend. But it just fell over." The night air was buzzing with energy. Jack felt something shift within him, a stirring of community, just as he had hoped for his hub. "How about we help clean it up together? That way no one gets in trouble." The teens exchanged glances, surprised but grateful. "Really? You guys don't have to," the cap-wearing boy said, rubbing the back of his neck awkwardly. "Sure we do," Dave grinned, already picking up a wayward fast food bag. "Let us make this right. You never know when you'll need a favor in return." As they all pitched in, laughter soon replaced the nervousness. They shared jokes and stories, an unexpected bond forming over an overturned trash can. Jack felt a warm rush, the kind that smothered doubt. Maybe this was what the hub was about, more than just a center for learning. It was a space for connection. After they cleared the mess, the teenagers waved their goodbyes, looking relieved and animated. Jack and Dave stood on the porch, watching the group disappear into the night. "Man, that was unexpected," Jack said, shaking his head in disbelief. Dave chuckled, leaning back against the porch railing. "But that's community, right? Just when you think it's all good, life throws you a curveball." Jack nodded, feeling a swell of hope. "It really does." Just as they turned to head back inside, a muffled sound reached their ears, a voice raised in what sounded like frustration. Jack's heart dropped. "What now?" Dave's brow furrowed. "Let us check it out," he said, the playfulness from earlier now replaced with concern. Bracing themselves, they stepped back off the porch. What awaited them? The night was far from over, and something in the air told Jack that more surprises lay ahead. As Jack and Dave moved away from the porch, the muffled voice grew clearer, laced with urgency. "I told you to back off." The words shot through the warm air, and a familiar chill ran down Jack's spine. They reached the edge of the driveway just in time to see a tall guy daunting a smaller one against the side of a fence. "What the hell?" Dave said, his voice low and tense. Jack's heart raced. This wasn't just a typical teenage spat. Something more serious was happening. "Hey," Jack called out, stepping forward. "Why don't you leave him alone?" The taller guy turned his head, surprised, but the defiance in his eyes didn't fade. The smaller boy looked small and frightened, glancing side to side as if searching for an escape route. Jack felt a surge of protectiveness. "Mind your business," the taller one shot back, his fists clenching at his sides. Dave moved beside Jack, his presence solid and reassuring. "We're making it our business. This isn't cool. You think you can take me?" The guy's smirk twisted into a sneer, but there was a flicker of doubt in his eyes as he sized them up. Jack stepped closer, choosing his words carefully. "That kid didn't do anything. Just let him go. You're better than this." The air was thick with tension, the night stretching out like an indeterminate void. Jack could feel the weight of his own heart pounding in his chest. Every instinct told him to back down, to avoid conflict, but he also saw the fear in the small boy's eyes. Dave glanced at Jack, as if silently urging him forward. "Get lost," the taller guy said, his tone dismissive, but Jack noticed his confidence wavering. No. He hated himself for how firm his voice sounded. It felt like a myth to stand up for someone else, fueled by adrenaline. "We're not going anywhere until you let him go." The standoff hung in the air like a delicate balancing act. Suddenly, the taller guy laughed, but there was something off about it. A crack in his tough guy facade. "Fine. It's not worth it," he spat, pushing the smaller boy away like a used tissue. Jack caught the boy as he stumbled, wrapping a protective arm around his shoulders. "You okay?" he asked, genuine concern flooding through him. "Why, yeah," the boy stammered, his eyes wide with relief and uncertainty. The taller guy scoffed, taking a step back. "You think you're a hero? This isn't over." With that, he spun around and stormed off into the night, his bravado trailing behind him like smoke. Jack released a breath he didn't know he was holding. "Hey, you all right?" he repeated, looking down at the boy who now stood securely on his own. "Thanks," he whispered, his voice almost drowned out by the night breeze. "I thought he was going to, I don't know, really hurt me." "People can be rough," Dave said, shifting his weight as if still ready to defend. "You stood your ground. That counts for something." Jack agreed, but he felt the weight of the evening settling hard on his shoulders. He turned, taking in the hushed street around them. The air was still buzzing, but now it buzzed with the kind of disquiet that comes after an unexpected confrontation. "What's your name?" Jack asked, trying to shift the focus away from the fear that hung in the air. "Ethan," the boy replied, glancing up at them, his shy grin wobbly but genuine. "Nice to meet you, Ethan. I'm Jack, and this is Dave." They stood in a circle of shadows, three pieced-together lives for one brief moment of connection. Jack pulled in a breath, feeling the way this night had unfolded. "Look, if you ever need someone to talk to or stand with you again, we're here," Dave said, his warmth breaking through the night chill. Nodding, Ethan's eyes reflected gratitude, but Jack could still see the underlying worry. As they turned to walk back toward the house, Jack sensed that this unfolding night was just the beginning. There were layers to peel away, secrets to uncover, and perhaps more than they had bargained for. But would he have the courage to face whatever came next? The evening was far from over, and Jack's heart raced as they stepped back toward the light of the porch, wondering who or what might emerge from the shadows next. As they stepped back toward the porch, Jack could feel a gravity pulling at him, something unspoken, swirling in the air. Ethan walked a step behind, still processing what had just happened. Dave glanced over his shoulder, looking for any signs that trouble was lurking nearby. "Hey, you want to hang out for a bit?" Dave asked Ethan, breaking the thick silence. Felt like an invitation, both casual and crucial. Jack hoped it would ease some of the tension. Ethan hesitated. "I don't want to be a bother," he said, his voice small, almost lost in the quiet of the night. "You're not," Jack quickly added. "Trust me, we could use the distraction. Right, Dave?" "Absolutely," Dave replied, nodding enthusiastically. "It's not often we get to rub elbows with a guy who can stand up to bullies." Ethan cracked a shy smile. "Okay, but I don't really know what to do." "We'll figure it out," Jack said, feeling a surge of warmth as he ushered Ethan closer to the porch. The lights above flickered with an inviting glow, and the sounds of crickets buzzed around them, creating a comforting symphony. They settled onto a couple of old lawn chairs, the cool metal contrasting with the warmth of their bodies still tinged with excitement. Conversation floated lazily at first, circling around harmless topics like favorite movies and music, but Jack could see Ethan was still shaken. Jack said, trying to get the boy to open up more. "Facing someone like that, it can really mess you up. But you were brave." Ethan glanced at Jack, his vulnerability bubbling to the surface. "I didn't feel brave. I just felt scared and alone." Dave leaned forward, empathetic. "You're not alone now. We've all faced something that made our hearts race. It's part of being human. It's how we grow." Jack admired Dave's ability to empathize so easily. Yeah, and it's also about what you do afterward. You stood up for yourself, Ethan. That matters. A moment of silence enveloped them before Ethan glanced toward the street, shadows looming like distant memories. Do you think he will come back? Jack felt a knot tighten in his chest. He had been thinking the same thing. I don't know. But if he does, we'll be ready. You're not alone anymore, remember? Ethan nodded, a flicker of determination igniting in his eyes. Yeah, okay. The night wore on, laughter mingling with shadows, and for a while, the weight of fear lifted. Jack started to share some stories from school, where he and Dave had managed to dodge trouble more often than not. Then, slowly, the laughter faded away, replaced by an uncomfortable silence. Jack noticed Ethan staring into the distance, as if the shadows were whispering secrets he couldn't quite hear. What's on your mind? Jack asked quietly. I guess I don't know, Ethan said, his voice thick with emotion. What if standing up didn't make things better? What if it makes it worse? Jack's heart sank a bit. He wanted to give Ethan a solid answer, something that would ease his worry, but he wasn't sure himself. You take risks for what you believe in. Sometimes it works out. Sometimes it doesn't. But that answer felt hollow in the face of Ethan's genuine fear. Jack wanted to shield him, to arm him against the world. Just then, the trees rustled. A dark figure emerged from the shadows of the street, moving toward them. Jack's heart pounded again, the knot in his throat returning. Is that? He trailed off as the figure stepped forward, revealing the tall boy from earlier. Oh, Dave murmured, his muscles tense. Ethan's eyes widened, caught between the urge to run and the instinct to stand his ground. Hey, remember me? The boy called out, the bravado returning to his voice. Jack clenched his fists, ready for whatever was about to unfold. What was this guy up to now? Would he come to finish what he started? Or was there something more behind his return? The night felt electric, crackling with the charge of uncertainty as they braced for the unknown. The tall boy stepped into the light, his features clearer now. He smirked, his swagger a mix of boldness and something else. Was it desperation? Jack exchanged glances with Dave, both of them silently assessing the situation. Ethan's breaths came quick, his body tense as if the air had thickened. Yeah, I remember you, Jack finally replied, trying to keep his voice steady. What do you want? The boy laughed, but it didn't sound genuine. Just came to see how the wannabe hero is holding up. Ethan shifted uneasily, glancing at Jack and Dave for support. Jack's heart raced. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about Ethan too. You've had your fun. Now it's time for you to leave, Jack pressed, making an effort to project confidence even as confusion gnawed at him. Leave? Where's the fun in that? He stepped closer. What are you gonna do? Cry about it? Ethan's eyes darted around, panic rising like smoke. Jack felt the urge to shield him, to push him behind him and take the full brunt of whatever was coming. Why don't you just go? Dave stepped in, attempting to diffuse the situation with calculated authority. You don't want to make it worse for yourself. Worse? This is just the beginning. The boy sneered, voice dropping to a conspiratorial tone. You think standing up makes you tough? It just puts a bigger target on your back. Jack felt a chill run down his spine. He took a step forward, heart pounding. You don't know anything about toughness. You're just a bully hiding behind your bravado. The boy's smile wavered for a moment, just enough for Jack to see a crack in his facade. But it was gone as quickly as it appeared. Don't stand too close to him. You might get hurt. The threat hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Jack could feel Ethan's tension, the way he seemed to shrink into himself. It was exactly what Jack had feared, that standing up would only invite more trouble. You don't scare me, Jack said, feeling a surge of determination. If you want to fight, fight with me. Leave Ethan out of it. Suddenly, the boy's bravado crumbled. Funny, he muttered, looking unsure. You really think this is a fight? You all think you're brave, but look at you. Just a couple of kids. A moment of silence stretched between them. Felt like the world took a breath, waiting for something to happen. Jack glanced at Ethan, who was now locking eyes with the boy, something shifting in his stance. "I'm not scared of you," Ethan said finally, his voice stronger than before. "You don't get to decide who we are or how we feel." Jack couldn't believe what he was hearing. There it was, the spark of defiance rising in Ethan. The resolve in his posture urged Jack on. The tall boy's expression faltered just for a moment, and Jack seized the opportunity. "Yeah, we're standing together. If you want to fight, then come get it." But just then, a siren blared in the distance, piercing through the tension like a knife. The tall boy's bravado vanished entirely, and he turned, glancing back nervously toward the sound. "You think this is over?" he spat, looking back at them with a mix of anger and fear. "Leave us alone," Ethan shouted, surprising himself and everyone else. That fierce edge in his voice sent a shiver down Jack's spine. The boy hesitated, then looked over his shoulder once more, the sirens now closer. "You'll regret this," he said before sprinting back into the shadows from which he came. They stood there, still holding their breath, hearts pounding in the aftermath. "Did you see that?" Dave whispered, barely able to contain his awe. Ethan's expression mirrored shock, but now there was a glimmer of hope too. I stood up to him," he stammered, disbelief mingling with pride. "Yeah, and you were awesome," Jack said, clapping him on the shoulder, feeling a warmth spreading between them, igniting a bond that felt unbreakable. But even as relief washed over them, a sense of foreboding lingered like a shadow. Could they really count on the bully to stay away? "What if he comes back?" Ethan asked, staring into the night, brow furrowed in concern. Jack glanced at Dave, who wore the same worried look. "Then we'll face him together," Jack replied, determination flooding back. "Together?" Ethan echoed, a newfound strength in his voice. But deep down, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the calm before a storm, and the next encounter might not end so easily. As the three of them stood together, a flicker of doubt crossed Jack's mind. What would happen when the real battle began? The dawn broke over Maplewood, painting the sky in warm shades of orange and pink. Jack felt the energy in the air, a promise of new beginnings. He rose early, knowing today was different. His plans had taken root, and a sense of community swirled around him like the gentle morning breeze. Sarah, ever supportive, nudged him awake with a bright smile. "Get up. We have work to do." The excitement in her voice was contagious. As they sipped coffee together, Jack's heart thumped with a mix of anticipation and determination. They had fought through doubts and fears. Now it was time to realize their dream. "Let us start by organizing a grand opening," Sarah suggested, her eyes sparkling with ambition. Jack nodded, envisioning the garage bustling with families, laughter mingling with the sounds of tools and creativity. "I want to make this place a haven for everyone," he said, fueled by a newfound passion. As they brainstormed details for the opening, news of the garage's transformation began to spread through the community. Posters went up, and whispers became excited chatter. Jack could feel the stirring of hope in his chest, awakening long-buried dreams. Then came the unexpected. Tyler, ever enthusiastic, rushed to his side. "Mr. Thompson, can I help with the opening?" The boy's eagerness lit a fire in Jack. "Absolutely. We can use all hands on deck." It felt right to be preparing together, cultivating a sense of belonging and unity. Weeks rolled by with Jack, Sarah, Tyler, and even Dave jumping into action. They painted walls bright, built makeshift tables, and organized workshops for the kids in the neighborhood. With every brushstroke and every piece of wood they nailed together, Jack's fears began to melt away, replaced with laughter, purpose, and connection. On the day of the grand opening, the garage stood transformed. Jack's heart raced. The warm afternoon sun greeted him as families and friends filtered in. Excited chatter filled the air, and Jack couldn't help but smile as he watched children create art and mechanics discovering their passion. This was home more than just a garage. It was a sanctuary. But then, just as joy illuminated the day, the familiar shadow of the tall boy emerged from the edge of the crowd. Jack's heart clenched. Will he ruin everything? "Hey!" the boy shouted, his voice drowning out the cheerful music. Jack felt a ripple of tension sweep through the crowd. Ethan, now emboldened by his earlier triumph, stood beside Jack. "Leave us alone," he shouted, surprising everyone, including Jack. There was a moment of shocked silence before the tension snapped like a taut wire. The tall boy smirked but faltered, eyeing the families surrounding Jack. The vibrant energy of community clashed with his lone bravado. "What's the point? You think you're gonna save the world?" Jack stepped forward, heart pounding but unwavering. "We don't need to save the world. We just want to create a better one. For all of us. You can be part of it or you can walk away." As Jack spoke, he could feel the bonds he had built, people standing together, filled with hope and courage. The tall boy hesitated, confusion flickering in his eyes. Around him, murmurs of support rose, bolstering Jack's resolve. "You're not alone anymore," Ethan added, standing tall beside Jack. The boyish bravado began to crack, doubt appearing on his face. He glanced at the crowd, at the laughter and connection that filled the space, before turning and walking away, leaving Jack and Ethan standing united. Cheers erupted from onlookers, and Jack's heart soared. For every dark moment, there shimmered the light of community, resilience, and hope. They had done more than build a garage, they had crafted a safe space for dreams, acceptance, and healing. As Jack looked around, tears blurred his vision. Sarah held his hand, Tyler beaming beside them. "This is just the beginning," she said, and Jack nodded, knowing that they all had fostered something beautiful. In that moment, he realized he was no longer just a mechanic stuck in the shadows of his dreams. He was a leader, a father, a friend, proud of where he came from and excited for where they would go next. Deciding he would continue to inspire others, Jack knew the garage would forever be a home, one that welcomed anyone who needed a place to belong. And with that certainty wrapped around him like a warm embrace, Jack uttered a quiet promise to himself he would keep pushing boundaries and encouraging connections that brought out the best in people. This was victory, but more importantly, it marked a transformation that Jack would treasure forever. If you love this transformative journey and want to see more inspiring stories, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and tell me your reactions and feelings about this ending in the comments. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformation. Let us spread the message of hope and community together.